Hi, I'm Marty Nemko. It's kind of a little Christmas gift for you. I'm going to play Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer in as many different styles as I can. And then, as kind of an antidote to the ever chipper Christmas messages, which have validity but also have limitations, I'm going to read you some stories that I've written that attempt to provide some balance to that. And of course, now my recording thing is not working that well, but it will work fine now. All right. Hopefully, yes. And hopefully now you can see the keyboard. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to read you some of these moderating short stories of the perhaps unmitigated sappiness that we are aware dominates Christmas lyrics, Christmas messages, Christmas cards. You could call me a Grinch, I suppose, for doing these, but what the hell? I like the balance concept. So, okay, now I'm putting this in front of the computadora, and let's see whether we can find this thing. Where is it? There it is. Okay. Let me get this straight. I think there are 4 stories. The first one is called An Omicron Christmas Story. After Scrooge's transformation, because of the 3 ghosts, he stayed good for a while. He went beyond buying Christmas turkeys. He embodied the Christmas spirit all year long. He even became a whiz on the computer so he could help nonprofits with their fundraising. And so, when Scrooge finally died, God decided to allow him a pass through the pearly gates and to enter heaven on a provisional permit. And Scrooge was on his best behavior for a few days, and so the loving God granted him permanent status. He would live in heaven for eternity. But eternity is a long time, and so at some point Scrooge got bored with heaven's preternatural goodness, all the constant kindness, all the chipper chirping, all the angelic action. The negativity in Scrooge's DNA had to express itself. He muttered, "Heaven is fucking boring." The first obvious manifestation of his curmudgeonly self occurred when he was decorating the celestial Christmas tree. Instead of shiny red and green balls, he attached radishes and Brussels sprouts. Then he thought, Christmas presents for all the good girls and boys? Ha! Even bad kids get presents. Great inflation. They deserve a lump of coal. That's what I'd get them, a lump of coal. A lump of coal that fell apart in their hands. Yeah! But mere thoughts soon bored Scrooge. His addiction to negativity required an ever bigger dose, so he got an idea. He prayed to God, "Lord, you granted me redemption and the talent for computers. I could serve you better on Earth, at least for today. It's Christmas Eve. With COVID, and now especially with the Omicron and XBB1 variants, poor Santa and the reindeer having to visit all those houses. It's a super spreader event. Will you allow me to help Santa work with Amazon Prime to automate the delivery of Christmas presents just for today?" And the loving God waved his mighty hand and beamed Scrooge to the North Pole, where Santa was hitching his very full cart to the sleigh of reindeer. Scrooge scowled at Santa and turned to the reindeer. "Don't you realize how Santa has screwed you all these years? Yoking you, forcing you to do the impossible, frantically churning your legs all around the world, and for what? So you can fly your slave master around the whole fucking planet, descend to each and every house, and then make the incredible effort to take off again, and your pay? Kibble! Tonight you should say enough is enough and go on strike." The reindeer turned to the union rep, Vixen, who thought for a moment and then yelled with hoof raised in a fist, "Strike!" And all the reindeer, like sheep, followed their leader. "Strike! Strike! Strike!" Suddenly there was a flash of lightning, and all the reindeer were turned into elves and beamed into Santa's comfy, warm workshop. Who replaced the reindeer? Scrooge, now yoked to the cart. And while God learned his lesson and kept Scrooge on a very short leash, even God couldn't keep Scrooge from wishing he could give some kids lumps of coal. Anyway, that short story is called An Omicron Christmas Story. The next one is one I read to you separately not so long ago, called Scrooge on December 26th. Alas, the morning after Christmas, at least some of Scrooge's Christmas spirit had faded. In bed, in his normal sleeping cap, Scrooge looked to the alarm clock, 6:30. Normally, by now, he would have jumped out of bed to get ready to open his money-lending business at 7:30. But today he thought, "I deserve a little more Christmas spirit. Maybe I can lie in bed a little longer." But then Scrooge thought, "There's nothing wrong with business. I charge fair interest, and people need to borrow, for example, to grow their business, to pay for college, to help pay for the Christmas presents they bought until they've earned enough in the coming months. Oh, I guess I'll get out of bed." Scrooge looked at the envelope that the three gentlemen, who he called charioteers, had left. He thought, "On one hand, it's true. He who has more should give to those who have less. After all, much of that isn't their fault. I mean, think of Tiny Tim. Think of poor Bob Cratchit, who was born not bright nor particularly hard-working. That wasn't his fault. On the other hand, the more handouts we give, the more we reward laziness. If I keep my money, I have more to lend to people who can, for example, build a business that provides goods and services to lots of people. And yes, while I was too harsh in saying that if the poor want to be lazy, let them die and we'll get rid of the surplus population, there is a grain of truth in that. Is the world really better with people who are lazy? Of course, I'm happy to support the Tiny Tims and even Bob Cratchits of the world. But there are many people who are undeserving. If I put money in this envelope, who knows what the money will go to, who the money will go to?" And Scrooge took a middle ground and put a modest amount in the envelope. Before opening the door to his store at 7:30, again Scrooge chose a middle ground. Although the interest rate he had charged had been moderate, right in there with the market, he decided to infuse just a bit of Christmas spirit. So he put up a sign. "I'm lowering my interest rate slightly. And anyone who needs a little more time to make their payment, no problem and no interest. Your slightly less grinchy banker, Ebenezer Scrooge. And Scrooge opened his door, feeling right with the world. Anyway, that short story is called Scrooge on December 26th. The next one is called Goodwill to All. Christopher's parents dragged him to midnight mass. As he sat there on the hard pews, wondering what present Santa might get him, his reverie was periodically interrupted by that phrase that already, by age 7, he found puerile. Goodwill to all. Goodwill to all. Goodwill to all? Goodwill to Travis? I hate that bully. Finally in bed, Chris made himself fall asleep quickly, because his parents told him that Santa won't come until he's asleep. He wasn't so sure anymore that Santa exists, but he decided better safe than sorry. So he emptied his mind with thoughts of the present he'd most love, a basketball. And it wasn't long before he started to dream. He peered into the fireplace, trying to catch Santa climbing down the chimney, whereupon under the grate he noticed a crack in the floor. He pushed aside the soot, and it wasn't just a crack, it was a door. Chris pulled open the door and saw a tunnel. His heart beat loudly. He grabbed the andiron more as a comforter, like a teddy bear, than a weapon, and he padded down. After his second step, the door slammed shut behind him, and appeared the mage. The mage purred. "You're a good boy, Christopher. You went to midnight mass, listened again and again to those wise words, goodwill to all. And you were even thoughtful enough to ask only for a basketball, not something your parents couldn't afford. You're quite a boy, Christopher." That made Chris relax, and he was amazed when the mage snapped his fingers, and into Chris's hand a box appeared. With a broad, friendly smile, the mage said, "Chris, if you like, open it. It's for you." Chris remembered what his parents had said, don't accept gifts from strangers, but the mage had been so nice, and the box, he couldn't resist. So he opened it, hoping that some horrible jack-in-the-box, let alone a tarantula, wouldn't pop out. But it was a basketball, the very brand he wanted. "Oh, thank you, cried Chris. "As I said, you deserve it, Chris. You're a good boy." Still with that winsome smile, the mage continued, "Would you do me one favor? I've shown you that goodwill that the priest urged us all to show. I've shown you that. It would make me feel better, like you trusted me just a little, if you put down that andiron." That made Chris feel embarrassed and guilty. So head down, Chris mumbled, "I'm sorry," and gently put down the andiron, whereupon the mage grabbed it and smashed Chris's head in, whereupon Chris woke up from his dream screaming. The lesson: not everyone who smiles, praises, and gives you gifts are to be trusted. Goodwill to all. Anyway, that story is called Goodwill to All. And the final story is called Between Christmas and New Year. It's December 26th. I don't care it's Boxing Day. I don't even know what Boxing Day is. Maybe it's named that because that's the day we box up all the gifts we want to return. I do care, at least a little, about the holidays. Now that Christmas is over, I'm feeling a little postpartum depression, the come down after so much holiday hoo-ha hype. And I'm worrying about the next few days. There's an enforced slowdown at work. How do I fill the days? When I have too much time on my hands, I get anxious or sad or both. And New Year's Eve, I sure don't want another round of hoo-ha, having to spend big dollars for manufactured frivolity, for hats, horns, and auld lang syne. But I also don't want to sit at home and stare at the ball dropping, with pretty people doing the superfluous play-by-play. Even chimpanzees would find all that boring. I think I'll just watch a movie with a New Year's theme. I just Googled best New Year's Eve movies and was reminded that Godfather 2, which I loved as much as The Godfather, was set on New Year's Eve. I think I'll watch that. Should I invite someone to join me? There are only a few people I really like, but I don't know them well enough to invite them for New Year's, and they haven't invited me. I think I'll just get Chinese takeout from my favorite hole in the wall, allowing myself something evil but delicious like spare ribs. I'll watch the movie and go to bed when I feel like it, not force myself to stay up to experience the drama of the ball drop. Sponsored by, and yeah, I had to look it up, Planet Fitness, K Jewelers, and Carnival Cruises. For now, I guess, I can focus on returning gifts. And if I don't know where it came from, finding a spot in the closet where I can remember it so I can re-gift it. And it's not a bad time to clean my apartment. I'm now cleaning out an apartment. I'm cleaning out my closet and found a pile of old photos. One is of my dad that captured him. Serious, quiet, hard-working. For a reason I can't understand, I'm teary. I'm guessing that will be this year's favorite holiday moment. In any case, that story is called Between Christmas and New Year's. Those are 4, antidotes to the puffery of Christmas. I hope you found them interesting, and my little theme and variations on Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And of course, I wish you a good holiday. I am Marty Nemko. I welcome your thumbs up as always. I accept your thumbs down. I always look forward to your comments, and especially like it if you hit the share button below. Share on your social media so that my efforts can have broader impact. And I am flattered if you choose to subscribe to my channel. In any event, I do thank you for watching. I am Marty Nemko.